Hamas has not been removed from power. To be honest, I never thought that that was a realistic aim, that Hamas would stay in power in Gaza and perhaps among the Palestinians in the West Bank or Judea and Samaria. That's the way it is. Hamas, it has not been destroyed.
Oh my God, it brings me tears to my eyes, but joy and happiness to listen to my colleague, who I revere and respect so much, Mr. Dennis Prager. I'll never forget when Mr. Dennis Prager came to talk at our synagogue at rgpoway. I was 19 years before the mass shooting at our synagogue. He came, he drove down to Los Angeles, spent the night with us, gave a beautiful lecture. What a truth seeker. What a brilliant mind. Clarity to be able to wave religion, politics, and a vision that he believed in and that he taught. Mr. Dennis Prager, a giant, unfortunately took a terrible fall, had a terrible spinal injury, and he is still in recovery. But my heart goes out to hear him like this. But my glad is so thrilled that he has the courage and the ability to continue on doing what he does best. So let's listen together to Mr. Dennis Prager for his reaction upon the release of all the hostages and his view on where we stand today in the Middle East. And then we'll discuss it afterwards. Kindly subscribe to our channel so a little bit of light will push away a lot of darkness.
I have been asked by a lot of people to offer some commentary on the return of the hostages to Israel. So here are some thoughts that I have on the issue. Not in order of importance, just in order of how they come to my mind. The first is that if the world had normal standards, Donald Trump would have won the Nobel Peace Prize well before the Israel-Hamas deal. But if he doesn't win it now, it should be obvious to everyone that it is a politicized prize and doesn't reflect reality. His achievement, whether it was Azerbaijan and Armenia and so many others, has been remarkable. Second is actually somewhat of a downer, but I have to be honest. Israel has given 2,000 terrorists that were in Israeli prisons, 2,000 for what is it, 20 or so living Israelis. All this does is tell terrorists around the world, and especially terrorists who are attacking Israelis, that that this is a great way to get their people out of prison. And so there's no such thing as a long imprisonment for almost any Muslim terrorists. Look, this was learned with the Israeli soldier years ago who was returned by Hamas for, I think, something like 2,000 terrorists then. This includes people who murdered Israeli Jews and people who blew up buses and restaurants and so on. I totally understand the deep desire of Israelis to value every life. This is a very Jewish thing to do, and that's what they have done. But it comes at a tremendous price, and the price is that they have taught their mortal enemies that they can get back the most heinous criminals just by taking an Israeli hostage. So there's no way to deny that fact. The third conclusion that I draw from this is also somewhat of a downer, if you will, and that is that Hamas has not been removed from power. To be honest, I never thought that that was a realistic game, that Hamas would stay in power in Gaza and perhaps among the Palestinians in the West Bank or Judea and Samaria. That's the way it is. Hamas, it has not been destroyed. It has been weakened, but it has not been destroyed. Number 4 is the incredible parallel between Netanyahu and Trump. No matter what Trump achieves, those who hate him continue to hate him. But he has supervised the destruction of Hezbollah in Lebanon, the near destruction of the Houthis in Yemen, the overwhelming destruction of the nuclear plans and power in Iran, and the removal of the Syrian barbaric regime. He had all these fronts surrounding Israel and was able to extinguish nearly all of them. It's incredible. And, people forget because they came, one after the other. But for example, the blowing up of the pagers, if you want to read of an incredible achievement, read what Israel did to get those exploding pagers into the hands of Hezbollah leaders. And then about the incredible ability to wipe out, to eliminate the leading scientists in Iran, just them, not a whole group of people around them. These are amazing achievements. At the same time, he has to answer for the vaunted abilities of the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, and their inability to respond for hours to what was happening in southern Israel. I would like to know, frankly, why such a failure took place. Now, I was mentioning the parallels between Netanyahu and Trump. Trump, no matter what he has achieved, and it has been beyond belief, his haters continue to hate him, irrespective of what achievements he has attained. And likewise, they both have these domestic battles. Trump had his with all these phony indictments, and Netanyahu has all of these in Israel for alleged crimes. I mean, I don't know the Netanyahu battles like I know the Trump battles, but if I'm not mistaken, one of them concerned receiving Cuban cigars. I mean, the man has saved Israel and extinguished so many of its enemies, and people are dwelling on his receipt, theoretically, illegally, of cigars. If that is accurate, it's a shame. People lose perspective. Perspective is one of the key elements in life. And so many people just lose it because they're overwhelmed by emotions, and their hatred is such that that's what matters, not an ability to see the achievements of these two men. And finally, this entire process should make it clear, in case it hasn't, of a society that is preoccupied with life and a society that venerates death, or as Douglas Murray calls it, a death cult. I saw on the internet, aside from what everybody saw, the celebration of death of both Palestinians and Jews on the part of Palestinians and Hamas, and the Israeli preoccupation, perhaps even over preoccupation, with the life of one Israeli. So that's clear. But in addition, the difference of celebrations. I saw a video of Palestinians ecstatically dancing and cheering the words, "We will kill all the Jews." That was their celebration, and the Israeli celebration, "We will save all the Jews." There wasn't a word about extinguishing Palestinians. That's the difference. As Hamas put it years ago, we love death as much as the Jews love life. They know the difference. It's the naive French, English, Americans, Australians who don't know that difference. But you and I should. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
God bless you, Mr. Dennis Prager. God bless you. Just to hear your voice again is so refreshing and so rewarding. You have been in our prayers throughout the world to have a complete and speedy recovery. So nice to hear your message, your clarity, and your spirit. It's all there. We pray that you can have a complete and speedy recovery. And we are going to listen and play back in our mind your thoughts. It reminds me, King Solomon writes, there's a time to laugh and a time to cry. There's a time for everything. When the hostages were released, the 20 last living hostages were freed, I was laughing. But at the same time, you think about the bodies of the hostages that were murdered in captivity has not yet been returned. From the 4 bodies were returned, only 3 were confirmed to be hostages. The 4th one was just a random body. How painful this must be. And you wonder, what human being, how low does low get? How depraved does a person get to hold back a corpse from a body to be buried? To use them as a barter, a corpse, a dead body that you killed, and now you're playing with them as barter? I mean, doesn't the world see that? He quoted Douglas Murray, one of my favorite quotes from Douglas Murray, who's an English journalist. I call him a righteous Gentile. He's an author, wrote many books. He went to Gaza right after October 7, 2023. He went to see it with his own eyes. He was there fresh, when the blood was still fresh on the ground, when the wounds were so fresh and opened. He saw it enough to totally append his preconceived notions of what the world is doing to the Jewish people. He then realized how the world, for a fleeting second, felt sorry for Israel. And then all of a sudden, they no longer feel sorry for Israel. They feel sorry for the bloodthirsty terrorist and the death cult. How absurd and ridiculous that can be. But he said something which really was spot on. When Israel signed this, what we call peace plan, which is not a peace plan, it's a ceasefire, it reminded him of a beautiful palace that's on fire. They called the fire department to extinguish the fire. And as the fire department arrives, they say, just put out maybe 50% of the fire. It's okay, you can leave 60% of the fire burning. Really? Even 70%? How about 80%? Just put out 80%. But 20% of the fire, just let it keep on burning. When there's a fire in your palace, in your house, you're calling the fire extinguishers. You don't hold them back and say, whoa. You could put out 90% of the fire, but leave 10%. Or even 99%. You leave 1% of the fire still aflame. Even burning embers is a threat. We know to win any war, it's either unconditional surrender, as Japan did after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or what happened in Berlin, in Dresden. That's war. That's how you win a war. You need to eradicate the enemy. What point opening up a patient, performing life-saving surgery on a cancer, and just taking out part of the cancer and closing him up and say, okay, expect him to live? Hamas made it very clear that they are a metastasized cancer. They said, our mandate is to kill every Jew. That's part of the mandate. They also said, given the opportunity, they will repeat October 7 again and again and again and again. When you hear words like that, we learned our lesson from World War II. When Hitler began talking about his plan to make Europe Judenrein, clean of every Jew, they figured this drunken peasant just spewing words. They didn't believe what he was saying is true. And there was no Israel at the time to defend the Jewish people. We now learned, when your enemy tells you that we're going to kill you, believe them. Believe them, because they mean it. And fortunately, we have an excellent army to defend us now, to defend any Jew anywhere around the world. The world needs to listen to Mr. Dennis Prager's words. When he said these words, and he was quoting Hamas, he said, we love death as much as the Jews love life. I rest my case. Is there any more to this story? Do we need any more explanation? And you want to go and sing free, free Palestine from the river to the sea? Really? You want to side with a death cult who loves death more than life? Don't you love life a little more than that? Israel is obsessed with life. The Jewish religion is obsessed with the living. Our whole religion is all about life. It's all about supporting life, promoting life, sustaining life, lengthening life. It's all about rescuing for life, bringing life to the world. We are a religion that's obsessed with life. We'll do anything to save a person's life, regardless of race, color, or religion. In Judaism, there's the saying, you save one person, you're saving a whole world. We actually believe it, and we live by it. I'm a very religious, I'm an ultra-religious Jew. Ultra-religious just means that I'm ultra-observant, that I'm very observant to every single law. I try to observe them to the best as I can, especially with the day of Saturday. Saturday is a day where there are a gazillion of guidelines, which you're supposed to make Saturday different than any other day, mundane day of the week. You're not supposed to cook, you're not supposed to travel, you're not supposed to use electricity, you're not to use electronics. And you go into you create for yourself an atmosphere. You create for yourself your own atmosphere, which is called Shabbat. An island that's for 25 hours, we're disconnected from social media, from electronics and everything. It's very hard, but that's a fundamental pillar of religious observance. If a person doesn't observe the Sabbath yet, then they need to reach that level. It's a graduation. When you become Sabbath observant, when you become someone who guards the Saturday, then the Saturday guards you. So those laws, there's a lot of minutiae, a lot of details to the laws. But guess what? As strict as I am, as strict as we are told to be, we are told, if any person's life is in danger, you must violate every single commandment. You could eat pig, You could drive a car, you could use electronics, use your telephone, do anything if you need to save a person's life. Eating pig means if you need the energy to go and save another person's life, there's no other food, you're about to pass out, you need to eat something, give you the energy to save a person's life. Just an example. But no, you can't eat pig. But the concept is that when it comes to Judaism, there's one exception where God steps aside and says, disregard all laws. Focus on saving a person's life. If a person's life is in danger, I step aside. I command you to violate every commandment to save another person's life. That is Judaism. Did you know that? Did you know how bent Judaism and how obsessed Judaism is with life? And that is what Israel is trying to maintain. And trying to maintain not only in Israel but throughout the world, is for us to be a light unto the nations, to teach this concept to the rest of the world, and to show the world that we are in the 21st century. We're not stuck in the 7th, 8th century anymore. We're not living by the sword anymore. We can coexist, we can live with each other, love each other. Just because we have different theological belief systems, it doesn't make us different. In the eyes of God, we are all one, we'll always be one. We're all created in God's image. We all have a mission from God to be an ambassador of good. We all could be good, we all can do good. We just cannot listen to our evil voices that drag us down into the dark areas that we should never allow ourselves to go. We have two voices in us, and we need to always remember we're at war with our own internal voices. One voice is going to pull you down, the other is going to pull you up. We need to always listen to the godly voice and be the one of great spirit, be the one to be a shining light unto your surroundings. As a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness, how much more so a lot of light. God bless you. God loves you.